Hey, mathematicians, and get ready, as today we're going to start to explain the differences between a gross and net income. And also, we're going to define different types of taxes like income tax and payroll tax. These are all things that you'll come across one day in the real world. Let's get into our lesson with our I will statements.
Remember, your I will statements are your goals for this lesson. They are what we are trying to work on and learn more about throughout our time together today. As we continue on in our lesson, make sure you have your mind focused on these three things and showing them to your teacher. I will read the I will statement first, and then we will read it again a second time together. Make sure you're reading it nice and loudly so I can hear you, but no shouting necessary.
Listen as I read the first I will statement, and then we'll read them together. I will define gross income and net income. Read that one with me. I will define gross income and net income. Let's look at the second one. I will explain taxes. Read that one with me. I will explain taxes. And our last one. I will determine expenses. Read that one with me. I will determine expenses. Nice job, mathematicians. Let's get into our review today. You'll need your whiteboards and a marker for our first activity. Grab those and come back and play the video when you're ready. Let's start by practicing our adding and subtracting decimal skills. Now that we have our whiteboards and markers, let's start with this problem. Copy it on your whiteboard with me. 10 and 53 hundredths minus 3 and 48 hundredths. If we were going to solve this problem, we would need to find the difference between the two of these numbers. Now, when we are working with decimals and we're adding or subtracting them, it's important that we line up the decimal place. So let's set up our subtraction problem. I'm going to draw it out, and I'm going to put my two decimal places in. Once I have my decimal places, let's fill in my numbers. So the top number has 10 in front of our decimal and 53 behind our decimal. Now we're subtracting 348. So in front of my decimal is the 3. The 3 is right in front of my decimal. So I'm going to line it up under the 0. And behind the decimal is 48. Now that we have our decimal place all lined up, we're able just to bring it down in our subtraction problem, and then we can pretend it's not there and subtract like normal. 3 minus 8. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Can I do 3 minus 8? No, thumbs down. I can't do 3 minus 8. 3 is smaller than 8. Let's go next door and borrow from our 5. We're going to take 110 away and bring it over, making this 13. We're adding a 10 to it. 13 minus 8 is 5. Let's write that on our whiteboards. Let's keep going. 4 minus 4 is 0. We already brought our decimal place down, so let's keep moving on. 0 minus 3. Well, I can't do that because like we said before, the top number can't be smaller than our bottom number. So I'll borrow from the place over and I'll bring down a tens. So now we have 10 minus 3. 10 minus 3 is 7. The difference between 10 and 53 hundredths and 3 and 48 hundredths is 7 and 5 hundredths. While we're doing this activity, it's important to practice also saying the decimals. We want to get used to pronouncing them properly. So we say our whole number, say it with me, 7. When we see the decimal place, we say and. Say it with me, and. Then we have two numbers behind the decimal place, so we are in our hundredths place. Remember the THS on the end. Let's put it all together. 7 and 5 hundredths. Nice job, mathematicians. Let's clear our whiteboards and do another one. Let's look at this next problem together. I'll read it for us. 320 and 45 hundredths plus 789 and 76 hundredths. We are working on, remember, not only subtracting but adding decimals for this warm-up activity. No matter if we're adding or subtracting decimals, when we line up our numbers together, we need to make sure that we line up the decimal place first. So I'm going to draw my addition problem and draw my two decimals in so I can have those for later. Now let's fill in the numbers that we were given. The first one is 320 goes in front of our decimal place. So I'll put those three numbers there. And behind the decimal place is 45. Now we're going to put the second number in the bottom. We're following the order. It also has 3 digits, just like our first number. So I'm going to line up those 3 digits so they're right underneath each other. And behind the decimal, I have 2 digits again. So I'm going to bring those 2 digits down. Now that we're adding decimals and we did the work to line up our decimals, we can just plop that down in our answer and add like normal. Let's add now. 5 plus 6 is 11. So I'll write my 1, carry my 1. 4 plus 7 is 11, but we can't forget to add the 1 we carry it over. So that would give us 12. We'll put the 2, carry the 1 to the other side of the decimal place. 0 plus 9 is 9, plus that 1 we just carried over would give us 10. 8 plus 2, or 2 plus 8 is 10, plus that 1 gives us 11. And 3 plus 7 gives us 10, plus that 1 we carried over would give us 11 again. Since we can't carry it over, we can just write it out. Can anyone read this answer for us? Pause the video and try reading it now. Did you try reading this answer? This answer is correctly read as 1,110 and 21 hundredths. Nice job, mathematicians. Clear your whiteboards, and I'll give you 2 more to work on independently and talk out as a class. The 2 problems you are going to work on independently on your whiteboards and then talk about your answers as a class are the following. 43 and 4/10 minus 7 and 59 hundredths. Second problem is 89 and 79 hundredths plus 554 and 34 hundredths. Once you have solved and discussed these problems, come back and we'll work on our new material for today. For this activity, you're going to need a copy of Ben's pay stub, which you'll see on the screen here, and you'll also want to keep your personal whiteboards. For this activity, we are going to talk more about Ben's finances. Each month, when Ben gets paid for doing his job, so imagine your dream job, and every month you're going to get paid a different pay stub. That gives details about your income for that pay period. Let's make some observation about Ben and some of his payments that we see listed on this pay stub. If I see on this pay stub, I see that there's $3,200 and $2,500 or $3,200 and $2,500 here. I can see those are both listed under different types of incomes. We have the gross income, and underneath that is $3,200. And we have our net income, which we can see is $2,500. When we think about these 2 incomes, I notice that these 2 incomes are different. Let's talk about that a little bit. Ben's gross income is the total amount of pay that Ben receives from his employer. Let's use our whiteboards to sketch this out in a picture to start. On our whiteboards, let's draw a rectangle to start. All of this rectangle, the whole thing, equals Ben's gross income. Now, if we look at the paycheck again, we can see that the gross income is the total amount of money that Ben receives from his employers for the month. That's the whole amount that he's going to get. However, there are amounts that are subtracted from his pay, and those are known as taxes. So whenever you get paid in the future from a job, they'll take out different things called taxes. A tax is money that people pay to support local, state, and federal governments. The amount of each tax represents a fraction of a person's gross income. So this bar here. Taxes are one type of deduction because they are amounts subtracted from the gross income. Let's draw that underneath in our second square here. Let's take our gross income. On our Ben's pay stub, we saw that his net income was still over $2,000. So that's going to be a majority of his pay stub. So that means it'll be most of his pay stub. So let's put a line most of the way over and then write net income. On the other section, this box, since it's a small box, I'm going to write it underneath. This is our deductions. Those are those taxes we talked about coming out of our bank accounts to help those local, state, and federal governments. Another type of deduction is health insurance. The cost of health insurance is also subtracted from the gross income. If we were looking at this and we tried to think about the difference between the amount of Ben's gross income and the amount of his net income, we can see that the difference is $700. How did we figure that out? Well, we subtracted the total number in his gross income that he got, which was $3,200. That was the total amount. And his net income only had that $2,500. So when we find the difference of that, 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. I can't take 5 away from 2, so let's borrow and bring over a 1. 12 minus 5 is 7, and 2 minus 2 is 0. That tells us that he's having $700 total deducted from his paychecks. $2,500 is Ben's net income. Our net income or net pay is the amount of money a person actually takes home after taxes and other deductions. So the net income is what money Ben gets to take home and he can use it to spend. In Ben's case, he has income tax, payroll tax, and health insurance payments subtracted from his gross income. Those are all his deductions. His income tax is the money that the government collects based on a person's income. Federal income taxes pay for national programs such as national defense, veteran programs, social programs, community development, and foreign affairs. Payroll tax is also a fraction of a person's income. Payroll taxes are deducted to pay for a program that helps people when they retire. Clear our whiteboards. The next part that we are going to think about is finding the income tax. So income tax in Ben's case is 1/10 of his gross income. So if we were thinking about how to write this as an equation, 1/10 can be written as a fraction. I'm going to write that this fraction can be written as a decimal. I'm going to write that decimal just as I read this fraction. 1/10 as a decimal is decimal point 1. This would be 1/10 written as a decimal. If I'm thinking 1/10 of the gross income, well, I know what Ben's gross income was. We found that out before, and we know that's $3,200. Let's multiply 3,200 times 1/10. If we were to do that and figure out how much payroll tax is deducted from each paycheck, we would figure out that $320 is taken out of Ben's paycheck for his payroll taxes. The rest of the money deducted each month pays for Ben's health insurance.